here, and Shirley, and all the Shirleys. So we're going to talk today a little bit about what we do in my practice and how we use light therapy, what light therapy is, but you probably already know that. What are some of the fundamental principles of light therapy and how we can use it to really change the health of ourselves and also of the people that we have contact with. So they may not be patients, they may be our son or our daughter or our husband or wife or some relative. But we can use these things. These are, for the most part, fairly mild as to side effects, if no side effects at all. But they're very powerful in the things that they do. So the first principle to know, as we were talking about the Nagalase frequency. Well, when we use any of these frequencies, they are not curing or treating or anything like that, right? What are they? They are giving information to our body, and then our body does the curing or treating or healing. So we, as facilitators of this light or whatever, we are kind of like the telephone company, like MCI or AT&T. We help to make the connection, we give that information to the body, and then the body does the healing. And that healing occurs from our spirit, or occurs from God, or whoever you want to say, but we are not involved in this. We're just like the telephone company making the connection. The conversation is away from us. So that's why intention is really, really important, right? So intention is important in everything that we do, right? So there are ancient traditions that tell us about the power of light. So if you look even in things like the Judeo-Christian Bible, what was the very first thing that God said? He said, "Let there be light." Okay? Many of us believe that the light comes from the eye. The light of the body is the eye. There is a light in every person. And that light tells us what is right. It tells us what is wrong. Okay? It enlightens our mind so that we can have understanding. So when we think about healing the body, then of course light is the first thing that we think of. And is that light confined to only a certain group or segment of the population, or a certain religion, or a certain... No, that light is in everyone. And so because that light is in everyone, we can use light to heal. And it can make dramatic changes in our life. So we're going to talk just a bit about the physiology. Like, is this, who was it that has the husband who's the physical therapist? Okay, yeah. So she has a husband that's the physical therapist, and he doesn't really think that this is valid, okay? Because what he probably hasn't read is the 35,000 studies on the effects of low-level light therapy. So what you need to do is to direct him to the National Institutes of Health, because they have a whole, it's like a 20-page document, this white paper on describing the effects of low-level light therapy in neuro-rehabilitation. So every people who are involved with, like my colleague here, Dr. Chin, who is a physical medicine rehabilitation specialist, they know this research about the light therapy. And we know that it works. There's thousands and thousands of studies that say it works. In things like Parkinson's disease, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury. So it's not like something that, is like some voodoo thing that Martha picked up, down in Logan or something. No, this is like a real, scientifically validated thing. So we talk a lot in our practice. We use a lot of integrative things like essential oils and all sorts of herbs and things like that. But if you want to know what is the thing that we use in our practice that probably has the most research behind it, it's the light therapy, okay? So there's like, as I said, there's like 35,000 studies. And they have explored, why does this happen? Do you know that there is a research center, a center for, what's it called? Center for Biological Applications of Light Medicine at Harvard University. So Harvard University is doing research on low-level light therapy. So if they're doing it, then all of us should know about it. So and just to mention some of the research that they have done on people who have had brain injuries, stroke, cerebral palsy, they have found that when you apply low-level light therapy, especially the infrared ranges, you will create changes in the brain itself. So first of all, you will increase oxygenation to the brain. Now, is that something that you guys might be interested in, having more oxygen in your brain? Okay? Well, if you're not, you should just know the oxygen is what makes your brain work, right? So if you don't have oxygen, then, yeah. So I had a medical student that came a couple months ago, and she was in the Air Force, and she wanted to be was it a surgeon, or what do they call those? They're like they're not surgeons. What they call them, surgeons. They're
right.
like.
So there's a ranking, I think, in the military and in the Air Force. There's a
flight surgeon.
Flight surgeons. That's it. Yeah. So there's one to be a flight surgeon. Okay. And so one of the things that they do is they have to go through this thing where they show them what the effects are when you fly high, and so they intentionally deprive them of oxygen. So they take them up like 30,000 feet. And then they have to tell their colleagues when they feel like they're lightheaded. And one of the things that they do is they tell them to do math problems. And after about 5 minutes in a low oxygen level, you can't add 2 plus 3. You wouldn't know what that was because the oxygen has been deprived.
Wow.
Okay. So what I always wanted her to do is take my light therapy up and see if it would go. But maybe probably already did that research, right?
They might.
So the original Dr. John Ott, who was in San Diego, he's dead now, but he actually did research for the Navy on the effects of light and light therapy. And they did a lot of research. So what does the light therapy do? Okay, there's 2 really main things that we know about that it does, and then I'll tell you the third one that's not as well documented. So the first thing that it does is it increases this thing called nitric oxide. Okay, nitric oxide primarily is in the red blood cells, and when the light bounces into the red blood cells, it increases the release of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule. And so what it does, so it comes out of the red blood cells and it just stays there, and it signals oxygen to come into the body. So when you have this release of nitric oxide, you're going to be breathing deeper, and then your body is also going to be taking up the oxygen to places where it really needs to go. Okay, because that's what the nitric oxide does. It's like a signaling molecule. It signals the body where to take the oxygen. And where does the body take the oxygen? To the tissue that needs it. Now, the only problem with light therapy or nitric oxide is it doesn't last a long time, right? So generally within an hour or 2 after your light therapy treatment, that nitric oxide is going to be dissipated. However, the effects of the oxygen will last for hours to days to many weeks even. Now, the second thing that we know that light does, especially the red and infrared wavelengths, they actually cause new blood cells to be grown. Okay, that's called neovascularization. So it makes more blood cells. And if you're putting these lights near the skull, then it's making more new blood vessels in your brain, particularly if you have an area that has been damaged. Okay, so those are the 2 things that we really know. And then there's another thing that is different about, so you can go to some person, whether it's a physical therapist, chiropractor, osteopath, whoever, and they might have one of these lasers. Okay? Have you seen these? They're
Yes.
called
Yes.
low-level infrared lasers. Okay, so why wouldn't you just use a laser instead of the light pad? Okay, because that's what someone's going to ask you, right?
Yeah.
You'll be selling this thing, or you'll be talking to people. Yeah, so they're going to say, I got one of those. Okay, but there's two things. First of all, these lights, they flash. Okay? So they flash at a particular frequency or rate of vibration. And that frequency affects the electromagnetic field of your body. So when we use the Elan light therapy machine, or whatever, what is it, Lumina now? Lumiceuticals machine, okay? What we're actually doing is giving pulsed electromagnetic field frequencies to your body. So now you can go to your Google thing and look up PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field effects. Okay? There's like another 50,000 studies on that. Okay, so there are these people who are selling these things, and they have all kinds of weird names, but they're selling these pads that you lay on, and it gives you these pulsed electromagnetic field therapies. And if you look at the studies, they're really pretty significant. You get really good responses with them. Okay, but hello. Elan light therapy is doing the exact same thing. Okay? The only thing is that if you bought the two things, if you bought like the cold laser and you bought like the pulsed electromagnetic field, that would probably cost you about $10,000 or $15,000. Okay? If you buy from Marta, she's going to sell you maybe one for like $4,000, right?
Yeah, 3 to 6. Yeah.
She'll give you a discount today if you buy today now. So the pulsed electromagnetic fields are very, very powerful.